Okay, I have combined section 15.4 with 15.5 because they're both talking about water ecosystems. So the first one that we're going to be looking at are the marine ecosystems. And the oceans can be divided into zones. The zones that they are divided in can be determined by their distance from the shoreline and the depth of the water. So you end up having the intertidal zone, and that's going to be the area that is high tide to low tide. So that's going to be where you'd find like tide pools and things like that if you've ever been to the ocean. The neritic zone is going to be from the intertidal zone to the continental shelf. So it's going to be from that wherever the intertidal zone is at the time to where the continental shelf drops off. Another name for this one would be the coastal zone. The bathyl zone is going to be from the neritic zone to the base of the continental shelf. So as the continental shelf drops off, that's going to be the bathyl zone. And that one would also be known as open ocean. And then the abyssal zone is going to be basically the bottom of the ocean, and it lies below 2,000 meters is going to be the abyssal zone. And it's probably not going to get very much light in that area. But once again, here are the different zones here. So you've got the intertidal, the neritic, the bathyl, and the abyssal zone. The neritic zone is going to harbor most of the biomass in the ocean, so the most life is going to be found there, or the open ocean is going to be where you find, the coastal zone is going to be where you find most of the life. Most of that life is going to be made up of plankton, and there's two types of plankton. You've got zooplankton, which are sort of animal-like ones, and then you've got phytoplankton, which are going to be plant-like ones. And they're also going to be the beginning of the food chain in the oceans, and they're also going to produce a lot of the oxygen on the planet. So also found in the oceans are coral reefs, and coral reefs can be sort of considered as the rainforest of the ocean, and they are going to be found in warm waters, tropical climate zone. They're going to have a lot of biomass, so a lot of life, a lot of biodiversity there on the coral reefs, and they're easily affected by man as well. Another one that is also really a lot of biomass is found is the kelp forest, and this is different because it's going to be cold water, so it'll almost be like the temperate forest that we'd be talking about for land-based ones. It's going to have very nutrient-rich waters. They're going to have large communities of seaweed and great amount of biomass, like I said before, is going to be what the kelp forest is. And there's a picture of the kelp forest. So moving on to section 5, which is talking about the freshwater ecosystems. The first one that we're going to look at are the estuaries, and estuaries are going to be the area where you're going to have a river meeting up with the ocean. And so it's going to be a mixture of fresh and salt water. So a good example of one is down in Louisiana, the bayous or the Chesapeake Bay. Those are examples of estuaries. There's going to be lots of life in those areas. It's gonna be sort of the spawning ground or breeding grounds for lots of aquatic organisms, and there's going to be lots of biodiversity in those areas as well. So estuaries are highly productive ecosystems. They provide a protective refuge for many species. You're going to have birds that are going to migrate to these areas. like I said, they're spawning grounds for different organisms. Estuaries are primarily threatened by land development, so companies wanting to build in those areas. So when we talk about freshwater ecosystems, it includes both moving and standing water. A watershed is a region of land that drains into a body of water. Ecosystems may be different along a river's course. So here's an example of the Colorado River. You can see there on the left and on the right, same river, but different look to it. So wetlands are among the most productive ecosystems. They provide home to many species. So when we talk about wetlands, they're going to help filter dirty water. They're going to renew the groundwater supply. Some animals have adaptations that are going to make them suited for these fresh waters that they inhabit. Examples of wetlands would be things like swamps, bogs. So those are wetlands, and that's a major part of the freshwater ecosystems. You have and the other one that wasn't really mentioned on these were rivers and streams. And right now we're going to be talking about ponds and lakes. So freshwater ponds and lakes are another one of the major freshwater ecosystems. So you have, again, streams and rivers, ponds and lakes, and wetlands are the three main types of freshwater ecosystems. And the freshwater ecosystems, they are divided into three zones. You have the littoral zone, which is also known as the photic zone, which means that it's going to be the area of the water where you're going to have photosynthesis being able to take place. You have the limnetic zone, and that's going to be the area where the light doesn't get to. It can also be known as the aphotic zone, A meaning without light. Then you have the benthic zone, which is going to be the bottom of any freshwater ecosystem. So all lakes turn over periodically. Turnover happens due to changes in density in both autumn and spring. Surface water flows downward and the bottom water flows upward. So that's what it means to turn over. So that upwelling brings up nutrients for the organisms that are living in these freshwater ecosystems. So that's because of the change in the temperature that it causes that to happen. So that is the end of the notes for chapter 15 and the end of the notes for sections 4 and 5.